Hi everyone, welcome from the Aquaponics project, and today we're going to look at one of the innovative features of the aquaponics system. So the aquaponics system needs somewhere to generate its nutrients. It needs somewhere to generate in particular its nitrates for the plants, and this is where it does it in these home units. So if we zoom in, we can see my tank needs a bit of a clean first off, but we can see that the water isn't flushing through properly. It should be speeding through there at quite a rate so that it'll eventually drain off. Okay, so this is the issue, and I'm going to show you why we've got this issue in our unit at the moment. So the first thing we're going to have to do is take these plants out so that we can get this thing mended. Okay, so I'm just going to switch the pump off there, and we'll just drain out the rest of the water. And I've just got some media balls which I'm going to put the plant's roots in just for hopefully only 24 hours, so I might put them in put them in the other unit for a while as well. Okay, let's get going. Okay, so that's got all the plants out. I'm probably just going to push them down, fill that up with a little bit of water that already has some high nitrates in it from outside of the water butt, and then we'll get the media balls out. Okay, so this would have been a job that would have needed done probably every 6 months or so. Just give it a little clean out, or if you've had something with lots and lots of roots in it that have kind of made the situation in there a little bit anaerobic, meaning that it's just got all clogged up with too much gunk. But you shouldn't really be needing to do this too often. So let's get these media balls out and put them in a bucket. There we go, so we've still got a few more of the clay balls to come out, and then we can have a little look at the inner workings of it. You can just start to see at the back here, so this is the where the water starts going down. Okay. So we got it down to the last of the few balls. You can see it's really quite murky down the bottom here. Obviously clay, so it's largely made up of clay particles. But there's also going to be a little bit of mud just when I've transferred plants from soil going into the aquaponics unit, and probably a little bit of organic matter, dying roots and things like that, and fish poo and things like that. But all good stuff for plants. Right, I've just got a couple of old bits of decking wood there, and all I'm going to do is just prop it up just slightly so that I can have a nice clean area to work with at the top here. See, it's quite a lot of muck there. This unit has been running for, what are we now, February, and I think I started up in October, so yeah, a good 4 or 5 months, and yeah, so we see we've got quite a bit of muck down the bottom. I'm just going to give it water to give that a little clean and that a little bit of a dry. Okay, let's clean this bit off then. We just want a really nice dry area and reapply the sealant. Right. And then I'll just take the camera off a second. There is our lovely hole, bored all the way through. See how strong that sealant was. I'll put a link to all of the products that I've used, most of them from Wickes and B&Q, to create this system. Yeah, it's worked really, really well. So I thought I'd just give you a quick show of what we're using in this system. This I found is brilliant, Silkaflex EBT Plus for the sealant. We've got a couple of elbow bends, and it's all 21.5 mil plastic piping. We've got all of this from Wickes, so it's all available at B&Q as well. We've got a socket here which will just nicely fit onto this part, onto our connector. Okay, and it's the rest of the connector there. Okay, so eventually the difference that we're going to be making is that whereas before this had been at the top, that didn't quite give me enough elevation in the piping in order to fit. This is the new part that I'm adding. Now the important part with this, you see what it does is it allows the water to come in at a wider radius than what it goes through the pipe. And that's really important because it forces the water to suck down through the piping and then eventually go out through there. And that's what causes the flush and drain, because you want the water to be going in faster. So eventually it will cut off the siphon, it will create a vacuum in the unit. Okay, so that's the extra thing that we're going to be adding. So we're just going to get this part sealed on. I'd definitely recommend wearing some rubber gloves for using this sealant. And the first part we're going to put on is this here. Okay, so this is going to go into, so that's the other way around to what it was before. All right, so we'll get a washer on there as well. I've made it pretty snug, but we'll just give that a good push in. So that just needed a little bit of a push, and we'll put another layer of sealant around it now. And just get that nice and sealed off. Okay, right, there we go. That is definitely why I will be using the glove to do this. Here we are. So just finished. That's completely watertight now. It's going to take, I usually leave it about 24 hours or at least overnight just to dry before we start getting anything back in. It's worth giving it a little tidy up, just any little loose pieces of plastic. Obviously you don't want your fish to be getting those. But yeah, we'll come back tomorrow and finish constructing it. So just give you a quick look at the components that are going back in the kit now that it's all dried out. We've got a couple of 21.5 mil elbow bands, PVC elbow bands. This is going to sit, and this is the guard to stop any of the media actually getting in. I've just drilled some, I think that is about 3 mil, 4 mil holes in there. Then it's important just to scrape off the rest of the plastic, which I just use a Stanley knife for. And that is a 50 mil piece of piping, and then sitting inside this piping here is the actual siphon. Okay, so it creates a vacuum. What happens is the water is pumped up to a certain point. This sits inside like that. So the water pumped up to a certain point. Once it reaches a certain point, it hits this lip here, and then it sucks down and it sucks all the water out, so that eventually it will go back down to this height here. Okay, so that's kind of the height, the difference in the water height. At minimum level, it goes down to there, and then at maximum level, goes up to there, and then just flushes and drains, flushes and drains. Okay. Final piece just here, which is connector. It's going to connect to, you can see the thread just there. It's going to connect underneath at the bottom of the plant grow bed, and then What we want is to get a really good suction, pulling all the water out. So you need to have a nice kind of distance in order that it all flushes out and then eventually will drain. So we'll just push that in there. And then this one. And then this one here. And then that will sit in there like that. Okay, and you can play around a little bit with the lengths of the piping to get a better flush and drain system, but those lengths at the minute I think will be pretty good for this system. All right, so let's just pop these back in. So you can see I have just finished that off, so we'll pop that in there. And this is where it's a little bit of a playing around, because at the moment, if you can see, the top of the water is well above the top of the lining here. So we're just going to need a slightly smaller one. So we'll swap those around. That's a bit nicer there. Push in. Okay. And then that sits just on top like that, and that sits just on top like that. All the way around. What you don't really want is have lots of clay balls just bashing up against there, or any roots growing in there. So that's what that prevents a little bit more, just having that. So it's the next day, and we've just finished off. It should all be finished off drying. You see, I just had a little bit. It took a little bit longer than I thought. I had an old patch which I put in at the back there, so I sealed that off as well, using that same sealant. And I think you can just see that there now. That's all in at kind of the right height. So the water is going to come up as far as there, and then it's going to all go back down again. And the lowest point is just there. Okay, so it's got probably about a what's that? About 50 mil differential between the highest and the lowest points. So let's get this filled up. The fill-in's usually a little bit messy. The water is going to turn a little bit murky, but the most important thing is just to make sure that the drain covering is round to start with. If you don't, then it's a real pain to try and get in after you've got all the media in. So let's get this filled. Just going to give it a little time just to check it is all watertight. So we'll leave it there for 5 minutes, check to see if there's any leaks or not. It should all be okay though. So let's get this filled up. The water isn't pouring out anywhere, or isn't even leaking anywhere, so that's going to be good. I'm just going to give it a little top up with some RO water, with some reverse osmosis water, which has got really, really pure, and then we can fill up with the rest of it. Should be fine. Pretty much at the level it was at before. So let's get this started up again. We've just got the pump back in there, and it's all hooked up at the top. I just want to show you the water's going to get a little bit cloudy just as it all settles through. So you can see there the water's now coming out at the top. There we go. And if you can just see in here, it'll be filling up. Once it reaches the top of that point, it's then all going to flow through. So that, remember, is that's the new thing that we've added, just this here, and it's just increased the entry point for the water. I'll put that on there. That needs to be on ready. There we go. Should be rising, and eventually it's going to hit the break point. And we're going to start getting some water out the bottom here. It's going to be a little bit murky to start with. Now you see it's fully flushing through. And what we should hopefully have in a second is it should just break as it hits that level, that line just at the top there. Okay, you can see that that's just broken there. Hi guys, hope you enjoyed the video that we'll be looking at today with the home aquaponics system, just how to fix a faulty flush and drain system, that siphon system of water coming up and going down. Just finished putting the plants back in, so I've had some lettuce which has been growing nicely in the greenhouse. So I'm just going to try and grow it aquaponically now and bring it a little bit closer to the kitchen. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have liked the video, please do hit that like button, and I look forward to speaking to you again soon. Any comments, please do stick them down at the bottom, any ideas or anything like that. Yeah, as I said, this whole video today has just been looking at innovation, the innovative methods of using aquaponics. So hope you've enjoyed it. Cheers.